and influence spreading across universities, which are counter to American foreign policy interests, largely that I disagree with. So I do think Trump is trying to send a message. That's why Romesa, I believe her name was, Ozturk, she had her visa revoked. I believe it was presumably based on a pro-Palestinian paper that was written. Now, that doesn't go to the question of whether or not they have the legal right to do it. But I think the motivation strongly has to do with. I mean,
they're posting the Studio Ghibli of them deporting people. They're posting ASMR.
But I'll just real quick.
I don't know that's a little different because it's not the Israeli.
I just want to say, because we talked about this last night, that's a fentanyl dealer.
And I understand, but the whole purpose is to send signals.
I think Trump is trying to trick the left by doing that into defending one of the most.
Well, I'll defend reprehensible people if it means defending our rights. Right now, yeah, I'll absolutely.
But that's the point.
You're not defending our rights.
I am defending our rights.
No, it's not our rights.
Yes, it is.
Unless you're here via green card or visa, you're not defending our rights. You are defending the rights that America decides to confer on people who are not citizens of her nation.
But you just agreed that Mahmoud Khalil has First Amendment rights. You just said.
I said they are limited First Amendment rights.
What is the First Amendment? What kind of rights would it be that, okay, you have rights, but you can't say what we want you to say, otherwise we'll throw you out of the country?
Well, let me
that a right?
I have an honest question.
I'll tell you. I'll answer. Can I answer his question?
Yeah.
How is that a right? It's a right in that he's not sitting in a prison, and I don't want him. And if
he's sitting in the jail right now.
No, what I'm saying is that's a detention waiting for processing.
Cold comfort.
What's cold comfort?
Cold comfort for his wife, who is now 8 months pregnant and didn't even know where he was, and obviously and has a kid on the way, and is trying to get information from the administration on where he is.
I have a question for you guys. The Constitution applies to non-citizens.
Yes.
The Bill of Rights do. Can they buy guns? As honest question. I don't know if they can.
I think the Second Amendment, as interpreted by this court, I don't necessarily agree that
Do it.
Wait.
Do it.
I don't.
Do it.
Wait. Whoa. Listen. Second Amendment.
Tell me they can buy guns.
Second Amendment.
That's right. Load them up.
The Second Amendment is based. And listen, and I don't necessarily agree with the court's interpretation as applied in Heller and in the follow-on case McDonald, but that is the precedent of the Supreme Court, and it says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's people. And the same logic that would protect non-citizens with respect to searches and seizures, which would protect them for torture, right? You agree that the government can't inflict cruel and unusual punishment to illegal immigrants. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
You agree with that?
So,
do you agree with that, yes or no?
That they can't torture illegal?
They can't torture illegal immigrants, right?
I agree with that.
Okay. And so you also agree that they can't be subject to unreasonable searches and seizures, right? Fair?
That's due process.
Okay. So why would they not be protected by the Second Amendment?
Yeah. I mean, yes. We've bumped into this one quite a bit because, I've known for some time that the Constitution applies to all peoples here. And the reason that it does, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, is that if the Fourth Amendment didn't, there'd be no Fourth Amendment. They'd be able to say, we just think you're not a citizen, so now we're going to raid your house.
Yeah.
So no. You can't raid someone's house just because
you're not a citizen.
Yeah, because the protection is for an individual, not the interpretation of whether they're here legally or not. And so the question then comes to guns, because Second Amendment says the people. So I'm like, can illegal immigrants buy guns in this country?
So
I want everybody.
You're saying when it says the people, that's a limitation that carves out. Mm-hmm. So you're saying because that the Second Amendment says. I never really considered Tim's question before. I think it's an interesting question.
And think about the recent precedent.
I need to explain to you where I'm coming from with respect to this, with respect to illegal aliens, because I do believe very firmly that our Constitution, when we're first forming our government, our founders have in mind, why do we have a government in the first place? It's in order to help facilitate and secure the safety of our people. But we have this grave concern, and that concern is very obvious based on history, that once you put a government in power, however that government is run, whether it's democracy or something else, that invariably they're going to crush the people. So we're going to set up not a democracy, which we're not at all a democracy, we're a constitutional republic, and that constitution will safeguard the individual from the powers that this group of individuals has given the government. And the reason we have this government here is to basically keep those citizens safe from outsiders, so we don't have
sounds like a liberal
bans.
Justice, because what you're saying is there's a general purpose for general welfare.
What I'm saying is
I'm going to interpret these words however I want.
I'm switching into the constitutional theory, not based on like this case here or that statute there. I'm just analyzing now. I asked you in the beginning, let's talk about the law. We explored that for 30 minutes. Now at this point, I'm talking to you as far as constitutional.
We haven't run to ground. We haven't run to ground. I want to know if Tim Pool agrees that this deportation is legitimate, or whether you're going to say you're agnostic about it. I want to know whether you think that this attempted deportation is okay to do or not.
I think it's okay to do.
Why do you think it's okay to do?
I think that this is the next question I was getting into as pertains to the Constitution. The idea that we're going to try and interpret the Constitution, to me, has become largely meaningless outside of the initial 7 articles. The construction of government makes a lot of sense. People often say, they'll say what Trump is doing or what Biden is doing is unconstitutional. They're usually referring to the Bill of Rights, which have never been universally understood ever. For instance, blasphemy and obscenity were illegal. Literally after they ratified the Constitution. You walked outside and screamed obscenities, you'd be arrested, literally arrested. George Carlin was arrested in the 70s for swearing. Like there was no universal
There have been bad times in our history where we have not been true to the Constitution.
No, but
John Adams passed the Sedition Acts, where it literally was a crime to insult the president. All right.
So, and then it got pulled back.
Correct.
So my point is, as it pertains to the Second Amendment, our current understanding is a complete inversion from every different period throughout various generations of different moral worldviews. Notably with DC versus Heller and then McDonald v. Chicago is when we started to get the actual, you can actually have guns. So it was surprising to me to actually learn this in the past few years because I didn't really pay attention to the gun stuff. But I looked at the map of the right to keep and bear arms pre-Heller didn't exist in this country despite a Second Amendment. You could have a dismantled, broken up piece of guns throughout your house, but it was actually legal for a state to deny you a permit to carry, deny you a permit to own, and require you to dismantle it in your own house.
Initially, the Bill of Rights did not apply us to the states. The Bill of Rights were a framework to apply to the federal government. And so that's why there's that proviso.
It only affected D.C.
It only affected D.C. And so for the longest time, there was no incorporation, is the term called, of the Second Amendment. That's why McDonald is a case that incorporates it through the due process clause. But I want to push you a little bit there, because it sounds like what you're suggesting is there's nothing Trump could do, because this is all mushy, it's all a woozy, it's all wazy. There have been times where we disrespected that there's nothing Trump could do where you would say, I don't like that because of the First Amendment. Is that true?
Let me ask you, is it constitutional to...
What? Could you answer that question first? Well, I asked you, you were kind of like saying,
ask the question.
Yeah, the First Amendment, it's all, we never respected it anyway. Who cares about it? That's kind of what...
Who cares?
Okay, but
I'll tell you something.
What would it take that for Trump to do where you would say, okay, because of the First Amendment, this shit is fucked up and I'm going to call him out for on the First Amendment grounds? Is there anything he could do where you would call him out for First Amendment grounds?
So the presupposition there that I have an issue with is First Amendment grounds. I think the real question is moral grounds. I don't care about the Constitution. I care if he's doing something wrong. So even if the Constitution allows him to be evil, I'm going to call him out for being evil, if it's Trump, Biden, or otherwise. And
if the Constitution says something, for example, that says, for example, because you don't care about the Constitution, he can't.
I do care about the Constitution,
but you only care about the non-rights portions of the Constitution.
My point was the Bill of Rights have been applied by those in whatever way they interpret, and then when it gets challenged to the courts reinterpret or interpret in whatever way they
care about the constitutional rights or not.
Absolutely.
So if you care about the constitutional rights, don't you care?
As I interpret them.
As you interpret them.
And you interpret them differently.
I interpret them differently. But
for example, is it cruel and unusual punishment to put a male person in a female prison?
For whom?
For either.
I think that it could be if you can show, for example,
could be. We have a problem right now.
We
don't have a definitive understanding.
Listen, so it depends, because you're going to need to do research on these constitutional principles to see, to what extent is it the danger to the person that you're putting in the female prison. As I understand it, there's not an epidemic of abuse from trans people in female prisons to the female individuals. That the more likely situation. Wait. As I understand,
I'm not trying to open that issue for debate. The point of contention was
it's a difficult issue.
Exactly. Yeah. There's an Eighth Amendment, and we actually don't know how to apply it to certain issues affecting us.
Here we have something clear. Right? Here we have something clear. You think if an American citizen did what Mahmoud Khalil did, do you think that he should be able to go to jail under the First Amendment?
If he was occupying a building, yes.
No, put that aside, because we have to put that aside because the government's not alleging that, right? So if all that's being alleged is an American...
He leafleted for Al-Aqsa flood.
Okay,
that's
an American citizen can do that, right?
Indeed.
And if Trump threw an American citizen in jail or said that you can't get a liquor license because you did that, something that's perfectly constitutional, would you call him out for First Amendment violations?
Yes.
So the only difference here is whether or not he's a resident alien or whether he's an American. That's really the only difference.
Absolutely.
But you just agreed, didn't you, that resident aliens have First Amendment rights?
No.
And as he pointed out, they're limited, and that's why I asked the question about guns and cruel and unusual punishment.
You agreed in the guns context. You said, of course, it's natural that you have gun rights. And so it seems like you're granted in the guns right. In fact, that's a hot take, and it's one that I respect you for. But why won't you grant it in the First Amendment context?
Like I already mentioned, we could not sit here and define what cruel and unusual punishment is as per the Eighth Amendment. So you're going to assert there are certain so the argument really just boils down to my moral worldview. That's the issue I take with the Bill of Rights and how we interpret them. As you guys are all citing legal precedent, saying the court said this and the court said that, I'm sitting here being like, the only thing that really matters is whether the majority body politic